Chapter 6, A Resting Place. Okay, so I guess we're gonna go and explore today. I'm all for it.
Are you sure your leg's okay?
My leg is back to normal, as I've said 3 times.
I don't want you to push yourself.
I'm fine.
You can't fault me for worrying. We just got you put back to Gilded. I don't want to see you get hurt again.
I'll be fine as long as there are no more brush leopard attacks.
On that front, at least we're good. The tracks we found earlier are at least 2 days old. They were probably from the leopard leaving the area after our last encounter. We just have to keep an eye out for the dune spiders.
I don't even want to know what that is, but tell me. These creatures bear striking resemblance to the Arachnida order of the arthropod class Arachnida? Words! Arachnida on Earth, and along with most arachnids on Arcalis are placed within the order Arachnida 2. They are air-breathing arthropods with 8 legs and fangs, able to inject venom, but unlike other spiders, do not produce silk. Okay, so they're just ugly and they don't make anything, and they're just there to scare you. Wonderful. Dune spiders can range from the size of a small cat to a small dog. Ugh. They are burrowing spiders that live in the sandy ergs of the Trinity Desert, burrowing beneath the sand and lying in wait for small rodents, reptiles, and mammals to feed on. They rarely come into contact with humans, given their habitat is further out than most humans venture. However, on the rare occasions there have been encounters, they have demonstrated aggression and willingness to attack if threatened. Their venom is surprisingly weak for a creature of their size, and generally not considered life-threatening to humans. Well, that's good. I'll remember that when they're eating my face. The what now?
The sand lampreys could also be a problem.
This is having such, like, big Princess Bride energy. It's like, we just gotta look out for the ROUSs. The what now? Rodents of unusual size, you know. Sand lamprey, large, jawless flying mammals that live in colonies near the Infinity Sea. I think we've read about these before. Despite the name, mostly given for their leech-like mouths filled with circular rows of small, sharp teeth, they are mammals. They are aggressive and strong predators that attack in high numbers, that are known to take down flying transport vehicles that get too close to their habitats. Their thick, leathery wings can reach spans of 3 to 4 meters and, like many other creatures on Arcalis, have bioluminescent flecks dotting the back. Early colonists dubbed them the stuff of nightmares, and had several deadly run-ins with them before carefully marking off their known habitats and avoiding them at all costs. Fortunately, they don't venture far from their colonies most of the time. They feed on larger prey, including a variety of medium to large mammals that dwell in the wastes. Because they attack in such larger numbers, there are few other animals that can withstand their attacks, and they are considered the top land predator of the Twilight Wastes. Okay, I know full well those live closer to the sea, so don't you even try it. I love that he's actually actively teasing her. That's great. He just laughed at the call out for his obvious attempt at trying to freak me out. Lance had a decided mischievous streak. It didn't rear its head often, but it was pretty funny when it did.
I'm surprised you're not more worried about the spiders.
Well, that depends how big they are. Spiders rarely bother me. They're big. They big, girl.
Well, their leg span is about...
Never mind. I don't want to know. As long as there's not a chance of running into some sort of massive snake, we're good.
As I told you last time, most of the snakes are normal-sized and non-venomous. At least for humans, their venom isn't a problem.
And as I told you last time, if we see one, I may still crawl on your head to get away from it.
Not a snake fan, I see.
I like them from a distance. Reptiles are interesting and beautiful in their own way, but I'm not up for a close encounter.
I didn't expect you to want to come back out here so soon after the last incident. I guess the allure of mystery is too strong for you to resist.
It is. A brush leopard wouldn't keep me from checking on what I thought I saw that day. No chance. We might find out it was just an odd rock formation, but if it was what I thought I saw, I wanted to see it with my own eyes. And either way, I would forever kick myself if I left the waste without checking. Together, we went back through the little cave-like area we'd found last time. Though Lance said there weren't usually leopards in this area, we were both monitoring the ledges above us. just in case. Lance had also spent the last couple of days working with me on various elements of controlling my psi. We were still working on my ability to set up a solid shield. But he was also showing me how to keep my sphere open to imminent danger, and helping me understand some of the basic concepts about psi and using it, like a crash course in psionics. Keeping an open awareness for danger was a theokinetic ability that used precognition to alert a person of impending danger. The trick was keeping an open awareness for potential threats while blocking out everything else. It had sidetracked us from what we planned to work on, but I thought it would still be useful either way. And now we were back out in the waste checking out the cave we'd found that day. I think the opening up ahead is where I saw it.
Yes, that ledge is where the leopard jumped from.
I eyed the ledge just in case, though I knew there was nothing there, then made my way to the doorway-sized opening where a stream of light was coming through. With a deep breath, I stepped into the open space beyond, and... wow! Okay. Every ounce of breath fled my body at the sight in front of me. Oh my god. Was I even seeing this? Was it real? It was real, right? My hands, clenched into tight fists, shot to my mouth as I did my best to keep the squeal of excitement from escaping. Only a thin squeak made its way out, followed by several whispered, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god."
Oh, there really was something here, wasn't there?
I spun around, grabbing his hand and dragging him out of the little cave. Yes! Do you know what this is? I pointed at the amazingly well-preserved structure built right into the sandstone. Look at those pillars with the carvings! I knew there were archaeological remains out here in the waste, but I never imagined there would be some right here! How did you not know this was here?
I told you, I haven't explored this particular area much. And without an aerial view, it would be pretty difficult to be aware it was here.
If I knew I could find places like this, I'd explore every inch of everything. Every day.
Then I'm uncertain if this will be good or bad news for you, but there are places like this hidden all around. Sometimes you just have to be in the right place to stumble on them. The Nomos have entire teams who search for locations like this one.
Does this mean this is a structure no one has ever found before? Like, I'm the first person to document it? There was amusement in Lance's smile as he watched me restrain myself from just dashing up to the structure and poking at it right away.
I would say that's most likely the case. The Nomos would otherwise have it marked and excavated.
Another squeak of excitement escaped me as I grabbed his arm again to pull him closer. I didn't want to disturb the area too much because, well, that wasn't how you did things like this. But it was so tempting. Holding on to Lance like an anchor, I made myself keep a respectful distance. I can't believe it's just sitting here like this. It wasn't in perfect condition, but it was still just there, waiting to be found with all its secrets and history. The larger paint of the structure was almost completely intact. Did I say paint? Part. Part of the structure. Words. From where I was standing, I could tell some of the detail work and carvings had been worn away. But it was beautiful.
If it wasn't in such a protected area, it would probably be buried by now. Or at least more severely eroded.
I agree. Being in this sheltered place is the only reason it's in as good of a shape as it is.
What do you reckon it was?
It's difficult to say just from the outside. If it's an isolated structure, then it could be something like a temple. There's no way to be sure just from looking like this and not knowing what else might be in the area.
Why don't you look closer?
I don't want to disturb it too much without knowing more about the site, and I don't have the tools or resources to examine it properly.
It shouldn't hurt to just explore the area a little. You don't have to disturb the structure itself.
How you approach a place like this is important for preserving information, but also for preserving the area itself. Even as I said that, I edged a little further in, looking around the area and trying to take in all the details. It's obvious much of the structure is going to be underground, so there's no telling how big it is. As for what's outside, well, there's the entrance, of course, but it's hard to guess what else might have been here at one point. I stepped gingerly over a small pile of stone and sand, still looking around. For all we know, we're standing in the middle of a courtyard that used to be surrounded by walls. It can be difficult to understand the nature of a site like this when you look at it from ground level. I shielded my eyes and looked up at the surrounding hills, wondering how difficult it would be to get to the top of one of them. Given the nature and architecture of the pillars, I would say there were almost definitely structures out in this flat area as well. It's really cute seeing her, like, finally be able to do the thing that she wanted to do. She's in her element, and it's lovely to see. I look back at Lance, still unable to keep the grin off my face. The Syndicans are such an interesting people. We're still learning about their culture, but there's a surprising amount of similarities between them and ancient cultures on Earth. Of course, understanding how they got here is something else. They're the only ancient culture we know of in this system that wasn't technologically advanced, though, which is odd. Normally, a planet this size should have many cultures that developed on it. The Syndicans had subcultures within it, groups that branched off and deviated from the main, but their languages and societies were related. And somehow they lived everywhere. We found evidence of them here in the wastes, on the night side, on the day side, even in places that are inhospitable now, which of course suggests the planet's environment wasn't as hostile in the past.
There were, at points in the past, land bridges that would allow travel across the sea.
Yes, and we found carvings and murals that indicated those were in use. It's amazing how far they could travel even without modern transportation. I laughed, glancing back over my shoulder at him again. Well, I guess you probably know all that already. I don't mean to ramble at you. He joined me where I was standing and looked up at the structure before us as well.
Don't be so sure about what I know and what I don't. As I told you before, the Thalassans hadn't uncovered every secret about Arcalis, and my knowledge is based on theirs. The planet held many mysteries, even for them. There are many things about this world I don't know, even aside from the damage to my memory files. And there are some things we may never learn. I'm sure sites of historical importance were destroyed during that war as well.
Analytical. We never learn much about the war. Emotional war is always like that, I guess. Confident. Sometimes it amazes me to think about the things you've seen. I like the bottom one. Yeah. Sometimes it amazes me to think about the things you've seen.
When you say that, it makes me feel a bit like an ancient relic.
Aren't you one? Technically, you're older than my grandfather, you know. Literally thousands of years older than him.
Deimos and this body are only 40, and he's inside me too. You can't forget that part of me is not that much older than you. And as you're aware, Morgan, I only came into being as I am 10 years ago. In a way, I'm far younger than you are.
Fine, Mr. Technical. Okay, it feels a little weird when you say it that way.
And when you say I'm thousands of years old, it makes me feel weird too. Somehow I feel like an old man.
You are an old man.
Yes. Old enough to be your grandfather.
More like great. He covered my lips with his hand, moving a little closer. I smiled behind his fingers. Great-great-grandfather.
Well, strange as it is, I suppose it's true I've seen many things, experienced many things. Yet somehow since you came, I feel I'm discovering entirely new things. And rediscovering many forgotten ones.
Oh? Really? Like what? What could he mean? I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly tight. For the moment, even the ruined structure behind me was forgotten as I looked up into his amazing eyes. He moved the backs of his fingertips to my cheek, thumb tracing a light path over the top edge of my lip. Oh no. I'd known I was getting attached to him. I'd known he was getting attached to me. That we were forming a bond which would be difficult to let go of. Why do you have the most amazing CGs that look like romance cover novels, sir? I mean, romance cover novels. Romance novel covers. My dyslexia is in fine form tonight. Absolute, the finest of forms. You'll love to see it. Anyway, I'm just saying, like, this... Big fan. Big fan of all of this. Anyway. I didn't realize how bad it was until that moment. Neither of us spoke. Lance just moved his fingertips over the contour of my cheek and jaw as if captivated by what he was seeing. His expression was making subtle shifts between curiosity, confusion, and yearning, and I was completely entranced watching it. His eyes lowered to my lips, and the fact I could tell exactly what he was thinking sent my heart racing. More than that, I was almost terrified by the strength of how much I wanted him to do it. I am in so much trouble. I don't know how long we'd have stood there together, but a harsh gust of wind whirled through the area, rattling the branches of scraggly brush clinging to the sides of the rock faces, and broke the spell. Lance pulled his hand away, a wistful smile still playing on his lips as he looked back to the nearby ruins.
I've been here a long time, but it's strange how everything is so much more interesting when there's someone to share it with. It's something I used to know, long ago. I'm glad you're here to remind me. Like this place. I never thought much about the Nomos locating and studying these sorts of things. But with you, I find myself curious about it as well.
Because it's never just about the place. It's about what it can teach us about the people who used to live here. Honestly, hearing the Nomos place such high value on studying the history of the system makes me regret not meeting them yet.
They were supposed to come already, but have been delayed several times over. First by the storm, then by other things that came up for them.
Oh? Do I sense a conflict for this route, maybe?
Based on their current schedule, I believe they'll be here either tomorrow or the day after. It's good timing when I think about it. I know they'll be excited to see these ruins too. They don't spend much time exploring this area since I live here. I suppose they view it as intrusive. Would you like to show it to them when they arrive?
That would be amazing. I wish I could at least start mapping out the exterior for them and figuring out the exact locations of everything out here.
You don't want to go inside?
There's no way to ascertain if it's safe to go inside right now, and I don't have the tools to check. She's a very responsible archaeologist. Archaeologist. Man, I am on the struggle bus, but it's fine. We persevere. You can do a lot of damage if you just rush in carelessly, so it's best to wait.
If you want to create a rough map of the exterior, it might help if you record as you walk through the area.
I still can't access my nanosystem.
Oh! I completely forgot. Why didn't you say something sooner?
I thought you remembered, since you said one of the reasons you had it deactivated was to keep me from being tracked. Since I've been in contact with my family, it wasn't that big a deal.
Come here. I can return some functions without connecting you back to the net.
He stepped closer again and placed his hands on the sides of my head before closing his eyes. The sudden closeness once again set my heart racing. I couldn't imagine he needed to do this, considering his abilities, but the thought he might just want to touch me was not good for my heart. It only took a few seconds before he stepped back.
You still won't have functions that rely on net access, but basic things like recordings are restored. However, for now, your records will store themselves in the secure network I created before. Just to be safe.
It will never cease to amaze me how you can just do that.
Well, it is part of my skill set. And part of why King was created in the first place.
After Lance restored my recording function, I pored over the entire exterior, carefully, of course, looking at everything, recording every point of interest or every structure and feature I thought was important. No matter how protected the area was, there was no doubt part of the outer courtyard were buried. There were several collapsed braziers of some kind, or that's what I believed them to be, and remnants of an old wall and path. Lance followed behind me, watching and asking occasional questions about what I was looking at or what my theories were. I kept thinking the site was reminiscent of something they had found on Dione a few years ago, an isolated structure built into a cliff wall. That one they believed was a temple. Well, it was more than belief. There were tombs and what appeared to be altars inside, but with so little of Senecan writing deciphered, it was impossible to know for sure. Either way, that was the first thing that came to mind. There were other possibilities that couldn't be ruled out without closer inspection. Closer to the domes here on Arcalis, they had found evidence of what they thought was some sort of lodging along what used to be a trade route from the sea. This could be similar to that as well. It would depend what was inside. Even if we couldn't read the inscriptions, there were often murals that could help shed light on it. But really, there was a lot of work to be done before anyone could venture inside, including making sure it was safe. But first I trailed off, realizing where my mind was going. I was supposed to be leaving soon. I wouldn't be spending months or years excavating and studying this site or something. But what if you could? I mean, do you really have to go back and study? I mean, it's pretty nice here, you know? What am I doing? Mapping the exterior. For what purpose? I would never even know what the Nomos uncovered here. I had been standing still long enough that, after a moment, Lance joined me.
Are you ready to go back now?
Yeah, I guess so. I gave him a weak smile, mood suddenly deflated. I think I did about everything I can do today. And my leg was starting to ache a little as well. The walk back was slow, and silent for a while before Lance tentatively started talking. I was certain he could tell I had something on my mind and was just trying to distract me a bit and lift my mood again. And then he was silent for a while again. When we finally crested a small hill and found his habitat below us, he paused to ask a question.
What made you want to study history, Morgan?
You mean beyond finding it interesting? I'm not sure. When I was little, I used to be obsessed with Earth. It's difficult to describe the feelings reading about it stirred in me. If I try... I suppose learning about Earth felt like learning about myself, my origins. And eventually, that made me want to study the history of Arcalis.
To learn the origins of people who aren't your own?
Just because humans weren't here doesn't mean this world's history isn't a part of our history too in a distant way. All things have the same origin. We all share the same universe. And in that way, I think all things are connected.
Do you really believe that?
Well, we're not emotional. And she said it. Of course I do. Don't you?
I suppose I'd never thought of it that way. We're all connected. That's beautiful. Humans have such a capacity for hope, always filled with such an intense yearning to understand themselves and find meaning. King always loved that, though humans were difficult for King to understand. People like you exemplify all the best humanity has to offer, Morgan.
I doubt that. I'm just a normal person, just fighting to make it from one day to the next.
That's what makes you so incredible. Finding joy in the things you can, no matter what life throws at you. Never losing sight of the purpose you've decided on for yourself. I love that. I love people like that.
The ... I'm squinting at that ... Lance. You're like that too, you know. Someone who is the very best humanity has to offer, I mean. Stop talking about humans like you're not one of us. You have some unusual experience, and you've got a lot of old memories in that head of yours. But you're still human too, Lance. All the things you admire about humans, you do them too.
And all the things that frighten me about humans.
Those too, of course. That's part of what it means to be human. We're all a mess of beautiful contradictions. You included.
The Thalassans were like that too, in some ways.
I suspect all people are.
Because we're all connected.
Exactly. He caught my hand, bringing my fingertips to his lips, causing my face to flush red hot.
I'm glad I met you, Morgan. I am truly glad.
We grew quiet again after that. I could feel Lance looking at me from time to time. But I wasn't sure what to say. When we reached this place, I just stopped and looked to where darkness was creeping into the sky, dyeing the edge of orange of warm violet.
Thinking about what lies in that direction?
Wondering what happens as you travel closer to the sea, I suppose.
It gets darker. The sun sinks lower on the horizon. There's a great deal more bioluminescent plant and animal life.
And more stars?
Yes. The closer you are to the sea, the more stars peek through.
I've never seen them. Not outside of pictures. It's interesting. Talking about the stars with both brothers, eh? Kesa and Lance. Interesting.
I can take you closer to the edge someday if you like.
Someday? I faltered when he said that, anxiety spiraling up to lodge in my throat. I was planning to go back soon, because I can't stay here forever. I stumbled over the words I'd been saying to myself over and over since I arrived.
Why not? There's no one who is going to make you go back, Morgan. Besides yourself. Who can stop you if you decide to stay here longer? There's no set time limit. Whether you stay a few more days, or months, years.
Damn, he wants her to stay so bad. Wow, that was subtle. You could just, like, stay forever. I don't. I mean, because I'm an Esper, and... Lance stepped closer and wrapped his arms around me.
You don't have to go back. Not if you don't want to.
I buried my face against him, suddenly frightened to hear that possibility stated out loud. Frightened of how easy it was to imagine myself staying here. Frightened even more of turning my back on it all. And terrified of the sudden hunger echoed by my thundering heart as I breathed in this warm scent. Girl, calm yourself. You've gotta calm down. I didn't want to leave him.
You can go back whenever you want. Or stay however long you want. There's no reason to rush.
He pulled back to look down at me with those silver eyes I had come to love so much. Lance leaned forward, pressing a soft kiss to my forehead.
It's your decision, Morgan. But if you wanted to stay, for however long you wanted to stay, I would be happy to have you here.
I couldn't quite swallow past the sudden lump in my throat. That he was saying, in no uncertain terms, he wanted me to stay longer made me happy. And yet I also couldn't help but think we hadn't even known each other that long. But sometimes, I guess you didn't have to. One thing was certain, though. The longer I stayed, the more impossible it would be to say goodbye. I could already see that. Even so, surely it wouldn't hurt to stay just a little longer, right? I gripped the front of his shirt tight in my hands. I can't get rid of this feeling things are waiting for me there. Unfinished. But there are also things I can never finish. School, exams. The reality is none of that is actually waiting for me if I go back. There's just a reckoning of some kind. And resigning myself to some path that is defined by my being a queen rank Esper. Lance's hand found my cheek, thumb glancing over the chilled skin.
Do you feel the same way about staying here? Like it's defined by your being an Esper?
I closed my eyes and leaned into the caress. That was true too, in a way, but somehow it didn't bother me as much. No, I don't.
Will you stay?
It was his first time asking me that. Until now, he had suggested I stay. He recommended it for my safety. But this was his first time directly asking it because he wanted me to stay. And I found there was no way I could say no to that smile. I'll stay. I'll stop talking about going back. I couldn't promise it was permanent, but few things were. Hey, you know what? I think that's fair. You can, at least, from the way everything's worded, it sounds like, you know, he's like, however long you want to stay, I'm happy with it, so. My heart is clenching. For now, I'd stay out here and stop forcing myself back to a path I didn't want to walk on anyway. This is also kind of like a mirror of Lance, in a way. Like, you know, he's hiding out here. There are things he could be doing, right? Like, as we saw in Magnus's route, there are steps he could take to influence things, and he's kind of been avoiding it for a while because he's got a great setup here. Let's be real. He's got a pool, he's got a lake, nobody bothers him, he grows his own food. Now he's got company, he's got a pretty great place here. And stepping out of that to do something that he could help with is uncomfortable and could potentially backfire and all that stuff. She's kind of in the same boat. Like, she's got a great setup here now. She's in a very safe place. But she probably is going to have to step in for something. Step out of that comfort zone. So it'll be interesting to see the two of them take that on together. I'm imagining that they're both going to have to step out of that comfort zone and be like, people need us, and we gotta not just think about ourselves here, kind of thing. So we'll see. We'll see if it goes that way or not. Lance hugged me tightly, a soft breath escaping him. I thought there was a tremble in it. When he released me, he had a radiant smile on his face. I had a feeling I was going to have a hard time ever saying no to that smile. After that decision, it was like the air had cleared somewhat. I rested my head on my hands as I leaned on the back of the sofa and watched Lance cook dinner. As usual. One day, I'm going to get you to let me cook for you.
You're a guest. That's why I want to cook for you.
Guests who stick around for a long time need to pull their own weight.
Then, starting from tomorrow, I'll let you be my assistant.
Why does it sound like you're doing me a favor?
You're the one that requested it. I don't mind cooking alone.
And he told me I was the stubborn one. We stayed up late talking, again. I fell asleep on the sofa with Lance next to me. I thought I felt a soft hand stroking my hair as I finally drifted off. Oh, so cute. And whispered words.
Thank you for staying.